Greetings, and welcome back to Brick and Lantern. Now, I know I promised a minifigure vignette over the last few weeks, and I think you'll be quite excited to hear that we're getting to that tonight. I went out to my local store and I found something very, very exciting. This is one of my favorite recent minifigures, the Knight of the Yellow Castle. And what better way to have a little bit of a threat than some skeleton knights. This is a fun little set, a very cute reference to everyone's favorite, the 6075, which I could not stop talking about last video. What I'm going to do is build a little dungeon, give some treasure, and let this young knight have a small adventure. Going to be using a lot of dark gray elements, and hopefully that green and lighter gray will help even it out. Starting up with the base, we're going to do something a little larger because there are 3 figures and a lot of small details that we want to fit. It only makes sense that we use a larger dark gray base and start to build a tiny little catacomb wall up off of that. Filling up our treasure chest full of loot here. A lot of this was from the recent Pirate VIP accessory pack. Very fun little package. Lots of great accessories, if you could believe it, in that package. Just giving them a little bit of loot. Hopefully that knight will have some gold to go home with, bring home to her parents back in the Yellow Castle. And we will put the treasure chest down and move on to the next part here. Still working on this base. I decided to use an angled plate here, so we're still getting just the shape right, making sure that it doesn't look like it's too flat, but we don't have too many studs sticking out. Nice beefy gray bricks here from my Star Wars sets that I've parted out. The next vignette we'll be sure to build something a lot brighter. Taking some cues from Minecraft here with this Minecraft cobblestone block design. Just add a little bit of spice of some moss in on that 2x2. There's a couple of these that I built just because I thought it would be very nice to have a little bit of extra color as we move into the build and help vary out from that very dark gray that we're going to be using so much today. Another pop of color and kind of a hint that this catacomb is not quite just a cave, it's a little more. We're building just a small wooden doorway, very similar to something like you would see in a Minecraft set or anything like that. Just give it a little extra texture. There we go. 3 bricks high, just tall enough to sit in the wall. Base is starting to take shape. Grab a sip of water, put that gate on there. Boom, there we go. Light brown's going to help distinguish a little tiny bit from the dark grays. Moving around the gate, making sure it's tall enough. Got a couple little mushrooms we might even add in later. The cave wall is starting to take shape. I really like the idea of giving this build a bit of a ceiling. So as you can see, we're starting to build up the side so that later on we're going to put a roof on top of it. And really give this build some dimensionality so that all the figures have room to shine. Got a trans green crystal there sitting in the wall. Seems like this catacomb is very rich in loot for our adventurer. The side wall is starting to take shape now. We're going to put some green on there a little later on. A few more random plates sitting on the bottom, give it a bit more dimension. Oh, there's that moss that's climbing up the side wall. I really like the use of the green elements that I'm putting in here so far. I think it's a very nice standout. We still keep that color profile we're looking for. here comes that treasure chest again. And this thing is a perfect spot right there. Just want to have it open so we can see all that loot inside. Maybe it's a mimic. Maybe it's not a chest. Just saw that thing jump back at me. Maybe a mimic for our tavern would be very nice. Skeletons and the knight are watching on as the roof starts to go on here. There we go. Roof's nice and tightened down. We're starting to get some elements on top of the roof as well, and one thing I really wanted to do was add a little bit of a dimension on top and below so that you're seeing the entire cave and a little extra as well. Really like the idea of putting a rock outcropping on top of the catacomb as well. Almost like in Skyrim, you kind of fall into a cave. Decided that I was going to do a little bit of overhang coming in. It's going to be a little tiny bit cluttered, but I think that that overhang is a very nice element. It lends it an almost Indiana Jones kind of feel, as if you're going into this dark temple with nothing but a torch. Or, in this case, a lantern, as I am leaving one of those on top up there. I love the depth of this build. It's really dark and there's a lot of depth happening here. I really love the scale of this build. One of my favorite parts is just the amount of depth that we're kind of getting here with all these different textures and various colors, a lot of differences in the bottom there, and it's a very fun environment, and I think it will suit to the playful nature of this adventure very, very well. Working back out here, almost getting to the point where we can start putting our minifigures in, but there's one more thing I wanted to do, and that is add a tiny little cave drip. A little bit of water dripping off a stone there, some more foliage, a little more texture coming in from the bottom. Cannot wait to put the minifigures on very shortly. There we go. It's coming together. It's coming together. Now all we have to do is populate it. A little lantern on top there to shed some light in our adventurer's cave. First thing we're going to do is put the Yellow Castle Knight in there. She's really the key to the entire build, and I want to make sure I have her put in the correct spot. Skeleton Knight, using the best weapon, your own arm. That skeleton is dropping on to her. And, of course, skeleton is a skele-friend, so here's the skele-friend, defending their treasure with a sharp sword, as our knight bravely blocks it with her shield. There it is! I love that classic skeleton smile design. Put a couple of mushrooms on there for a little more. On the back, a couple more moss pieces on there. That way, when we give it a nice spin around, you'll have a little bit of detail on the back. It won't just be flat. 3 minifigures in this one. Lots and lots of room. Absolutely love that trans blue kind of cave drip I ended up doing onto the floor. I think it's fun, get a lot of great light coming into it, but also a tiny bit of detail on the back so that you're not just, oh, suffocating because the front has all the detail. This was a really fun build. A lot of texture work I tried to incorporate in there and really make the most out of my parts. That is our vignette. I hope you enjoyed building it with me as much as I did putting it together with you. As always, if you feel so inclined, please subscribe. We'll be doing more videos again soon. I've got a set review that's a little out of the ordinary coming up. And stay warm, stay safe, and make sure you hydrate. Good night.